It wasn't a good day.
Johnny Manziel's first regular season pass is picked off.
You know, the only thing I can do is flush it and move forward and keep going.
Gets it away, into the end zone! Touchdown, Argos! What a comeback!
We really want to make sure that we learned the lesson, and now we have to have all focus and energy on Montreal.
It's the knockout, and the time has finally come to shut them down and show them we number one. It's the knockout, all the blood, sweat, and tears, the hard work we've been putting in for years. It's the knockout, and the time has finally come to shut them down and show them we number one.
TD Place in Ottawa on a night they'll celebrate the past. The old Rough Riders who won back-to-back Grey Cups in the late 60s, a night they'd like to celebrate the present by beating Montreal again.
One of the most intriguing athletes in the past decade, Johnny Manziel, looking to improve on an inauspicious start from last week where he was thrust in the lion's den and eaten alive by the Tiger Cats.
Trevor Harris making his 50th career start as a Red Black. He's 5-0 against the Montreal Alouettes. He wants to be an elite quarterback. To be an elite quarterback, you have to be good game in and game out.
What is going
What is
on?
that? Is that a baby?
That's Brassinopoly. He's a security blanket for Trevor Harris. His pacifier, his security blanket, his second down converter. All that.
Boy, you know that sound too. New dad, wife Veronica, baby Avery. So David Sanchez, all about that. Very well done. Welcome to CFL and TSN, wrapping up week 9. Glad you weren't calling him a baby there.
No.
Rod Smith with Chez and Matt Dunnigan and Milt Stiegel as well. Okay, well, let's just start this way. Johnny Manziel, horrid debut. What needs to change tonight?
Well, he needs more opportunities. And to get those opportunities, he needs his defense to get Trevor Harris and that offense off the field. If they can do that, give him some more opportunities to see that defense and make some plays, he can play better.
All right, well, Heath and Dozier, one side of the defensive backfield, never played together.
Wow.
Jermaine Robinson, Joe Rankin, the other side of the defensive backfield, never played together. You need continuity. Trevor Harris going to throw for 350. Johnny Football going to have to be Johnny Magician in order to keep up with Trevor tonight.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. And I think in order for the Ottawa team, I think for Montreal to have a chance in this football game, Ottawa's got to do what they did last week, and that's implode and give up a 24-point lead against Toronto. That played well in the second half last week. Got to be like that.
Well, let's find out what happens in Manziel's second start. What do the Red Blacks do? Kickoff's coming up.
Here's Johnny.
Montreal Alouettes want to sell some tickets, and that's the guy they brought in to do it.
This game is humbling.
And he's picked off right away. His first pass is intercepted.
Things went so bad, so quick.
An absolute disaster for Manziel in his debut.
It wasn't our day, and it didn't go our way.
We're talking about since 2015, since he's played in a regular season game.
That was a rude welcome to the CFL.
We'll learn from it and hopefully press forward with a vengeance. I'm not going to allow this to set me back.
Gary Wishawan of Calgary. You could win groceries for a year if the kickoffs return for a touchdown in this game, thanks to Safeway Sobeys $1 million touchdown to win promotion. And if it happens a second time, you could also win $1 million. Good luck, Gary. Off to the nation's capital to Chris Cuthbert and Dwayne Ford.
Thank you, Rod, on what's been a spectacular day in the nation's capital, and on a night they will honor the Grey Cup legends of 50 years ago. Ready for an Eastern showdown. Alouettes, Red Blacks from TD Place.
On tonight's matchup, you've got two quarterbacks looking to turn things around based on what went on last week. In case you didn't hear, Johnny Manziel threw 4 interceptions in his CFL debut. He obviously needs to be better in start number 2. For Trevor Harris and the Ottawa Red Blacks, a chance to close out a game. They let it slip away. It's been eating away at number 7 all week, and he looks to turn his team's fortunes around.
Yeah, what team suffered the most painful loss last week? Rick Campbell's crew tried to rebound from a 42-41 defeat in Toronto. They squandered the second largest lead in Ottawa football history in that game, trying to avoid their first 2-game losing streak of the year. Mike Sherman's Owls throttled 50-11, and they try to end a 4-game losing streak. Funny, the Alouettes have been much better on the road than they've been at home so far this year. Set to go. And with the kickoff, we're underway, and it will be William Standback from his 9. And Standback works his way across the 30-yard line, and that's where Johnny Manziel will go to work, humbled in his debut, looking for some progress in start number 2.
Well, that's the key for Johnny Manziel. I think this team is committed to him as their starting quarterback, obviously with the price they paid to get him via trade. The key for him isn't necessarily to suddenly turn this team around in terms of wins and losses, but he needs to get better every week. He needs to show that he's learning and developing.
Injured Red Black on the kick cover. Here's what Manziel did last week, and as he said, did not set a good tone early in the game.
Yeah, pass number 2 of his CFL career, picked off by Larry Dean. The Ticats promptly marched in. They had a big lead early and put Manziel in, I'll say, a worse situation, because he was in a difficult situation right from the get-go.
Well, he said he didn't want to have that feeling again. Injured player Jean-Philippe Bolduc, who makes his way to the sidelines. Alouettes outscored 28-0 in the opening quarter last week. So step 1 is obviously a better start. And a handoff inside after looking like an empty set. Not much room there running wise for Tyrell Sutton.
Well, we'll take a look at the supporting cast in that offense. It includes this week Darius Bowman making his Montreal Alouettes debut in that receiving core. Along the offensive line, Philippe Gagnon slated to start. We expect to see a few different faces along that offensive line, as that's been the case for much of the season for this team.
Just one for Sutton, and the draw play. They'll give it back to Sutton on the ground, and it's another one of the steps for Mike Sherman, trying to establish a ground game in support of his young quarterback. And a first down run on 2nd and long for Sutton.
Yeah, good call. Nice lead block from the fullback. Patrick Lavoie folding inside to get up on the middle linebacker, Avery Williams.
11 carries, 41 yards last week for Sutton. They converted on only 25% of their 2nd and 7+ situations. And the first throw, they'll swing it out. Here's Ernest Jackson, the Grey Cup hero from a couple of years. And not going very far there as we set the Ottawa defense for you.
And defensively for the Red Blacks there, without Avery Ellis, Danny Mason. It's been a nice find for them at the defensive end position. Athletic player, should get after it. Antoine Pruneau moves down from safety into the box. He'll be at the nickel linebacker spot this week. The shuffling of the secondary leads to rookie Justin Howell getting the start at free safety.
Carlton product, anxious to prove himself. Manziel slinging it in, up in the air. Incomplete, intended for Eugene Lewis, who couldn't bring it down against Sherrod Baltimore, who is on the corner tonight after the exit by Lucius Purifoy cut this week.
Yeah, Baltimore is a guy who started 13 games last year for this Ottawa team, but with free agency bringing in Purifoy, Josh Johnson, Rico Murray in the secondary, he got pushed to the practice roster to start the year. The good player who worked hard and finds himself back in the starting lineup tonight.
Morris Beatty had one blocked for a touchdown last week. Deontay Spencer is back. He returned one for a touchdown last week. Skied to Spencer at his 25. First surge he beats, but a flag comes down. And he is dropped after a short return. Tackle on the play made by Jean-Samuel Blanc. So Trevor Harris gets his 50th start of his career tonight, 5-0. against the Alouettes. The CFL on TSN is brought to you by the Nissan Titan, official vehicle of the Canadian Football League. Second of 3 meetings between these two teams. They met on July 6th, 28-18, the score in favor of Ottawa. Trevor Harris, 342 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. Illegal block against the Red Blacks, pushed them back. Greg Ellingson has a catch, and Brandon Dozier meets up with him quickly.
A quick peek at the Ottawa offensive lineup. Deontay Spencer, you mentioned earlier, a punt return touchdown last week. Also season highs in receiving, both catches and yards last week. Sir Vincent Rogers at left tackle will anchor the Red Blacks O-line.
Ellingson gets 6, 2nd and 4 to the wide side. R.J. Harris with a first down catch, got loose. And down the sidelines for extra yardage. They rule him out at the 38.
R.J. Harris, the middle receiver in that set. Just going to run that quick out, speed cut. Quick hitter for the first down yardage.
16 and a first down. They go tempo, fake to Powell. Back in the hands of Ellingson, who hasn't had over 50 yards receiving in a game in his last 5. And let's see if he can crack that against the young Alouette defense.
Young indeed, and you look at the defensive end positions with the trade of Jamal Westerman, injury to John Bowman. It becomes Bo Banner and Ventrell McMillan supplying pressure off the edges. Chris Aki has been a bright spot in a tough season for the Owls at the will linebacker spot. Brandon Dozier starts at corner. Tommy Campbell's a late scratch.
And another completion as the Red Blacks look crisp coming out. And a catch made there by Dominic Rhymes, who has his 2nd grab of the season, coming off IR.
Yeah, Rhymes injured to start the year.
Bigger target. Rick Campbell feels can create some mismatches here tonight. First down up at the 52. Harris was perfect in the opening quarter last week. 11 for 11 and 175. Pressure coming, gets it away, and he's got another completion to Rhymes into Alouette territory.
Well, Trevor Harris slow to get up after taking a shot there, but anxious to rebound both from the hit and from last week's game. He had a season high with 381 yards through the air last week. Couple of touchdown passes in that ball game. The interception for Trevor, though, will be the thing that stands out in a game that the Red Blacks really feel they let get away.
Strangely alternating 300-yard games this year. Trying to do it 2 games in a row. Dominic Davis in short yardage to push the pile forward and get a fresh set of downs for Harris.
Yeah, Trevor Harris throughout his career, when he's had an opportunity to be a starter, has consistently been a productive guy. You know, much made of his struggles in a couple of games against Calgary in the early going this season.
Yeah, Calgary had a lot to do with the fact that it's been alternating 300-yard games. Fabian Foote checks in late on defense for Montreal. William Powell, the ball carrier. And down to around the 41, close to 5 for Powell, 2nd in the league in rushing, and 138 yards in that meeting in early July.
William Powell, such an important part of this Red Blacks offense. You know, your classic CFL back, a guy who does it all, has been more productive as a receiver in recent weeks than he had been in the early part of the season.
2nd and 5, 3 receivers to the wide side, goes the other way, and the catch is made, but a fumble ripped out of there by Chip Cox. Well, a guy who has been an expert in that area over the years takes it away from an old teammate, J.C. Beaulieu. And Chip Cox in game number 218 of his career with the theft here to get the football back in Alouette hands. 38th career takeaway for Chip Cox, 15th fumble recovery, 27th forced fumble.
Yeah, Chip Cox is a guy who has always had a nose for the football. Here he's in coverage. You'll see the tight end right in front of him. Bolia gets in that hip pocket. Moment the ball is caught, you see him wrap around, get that left hand on the ball, and start fighting to try and pull it loose. He succeeds. Big break for the Alouettes.
Bolia with the touchdown against Montreal in their first meeting. Manziel hands it off right into the oncoming rush, and another short gain for Tyrell Sutton.
Now it'll be interesting to see, Chris, as they've looked to lean on the run game, try and establish Tyrell Sutton early in this ball game. If they look to use that and build play action, bootleg, things that move the pocket a little bit for Johnny Manziel, things that are his strength. You look at the big plays he made last week. They weren't made with him throwing from the pocket, but made, whether by design or otherwise, when he was able to get outside with his launch point.
Back in second and long, 4 receivers to the field. And Manziel with lots of time got Ernest Jackson up at the 45-yard line. Big play for Manziel to Jackson for an Alouette first down. 26-yarder.
And for a young quarterback, new to the Canadian Football League, having that time to process and make his reads is going to be key. Here you see the Alouettes going with max protection, a 7-man protection with tight end and running back staying into block. Make sure they get it picked up. Reduce the pressure, give Manziel more time.
Hand off to Sutton inside, and he carries it for 4 to the 50. Well, 4 interceptions in his first start. Last with 4 was a guy who some people in Montreal believe should be in the Hall of Fame, Sonny Wade, who recovered from a tough outing like that to help lead the Alouettes to a few Grey Cups.
Yeah, folks in Montreal certainly hoping history repeats itself.
And a draw to Sutton, some nifty work there. Second level, and Tyrell Sutton into Ottawa territory to the Red-Black 44.
And, you know, I like the game plan. I like the play calling early for the Alouettes. You know, obviously, a quarterback making his second career CFL start, whether he's a big name or otherwise, you want to try and establish the ground game. Again, take the pressure off of him. But aside from that, Tyrell Sutton's their best offensive weapon. Get him the ball.
First and 10, Sutton, the 4th Alouette in history, over 3,500 rushing yards. Manziel lost the ball, gonna have to eat it. Way back on the Alouette side of half, back at the 52-yard line. Playing hot potato. Danny Mason leading the Red-Black surge.
Yeah, they got in a little bit of trouble, obviously, with that hot potato. With Sutton coming to block, Manziel trying to avoid that rush. Alouettes did well just to maintain possession.
Well, what's he got on 2nd and 24? Throw the screen inside. It's B.J. Cunningham and Antoine Pruneau from the strong side linebacker spot, leading the swarm.
Yeah, trying to mix things up. They brought the receiver. I believe it was
that T.J. Graham, 89.
Yeah, came in to help out in the protection. Created a misdirection with Tyrell Sutton swinging out to the short side of the field and then screen back to Graham on the wide side.
Beatty to punt. Launches this, and Spencer's going to let it go over his head, but it does reach the end zone. Going to be no yards, so an option, likely. A Rouge got a little dust up at the end of it. Stephon Mintza, a newcomer in the red-black uniform, getting escorted away. Looks like it's going to be 1-0 Alouettes. Deontay Spencer, number 3 in the league in all-purpose yards, and coming off that huge receiving game last week in Toronto on offense when we come back. REDBLACKS with 3 receivers in the top 12 in receiving, and Deontay Spencer's number 12.
Yeah, Deontay Spencer making a big climb up the list with his breakout performance last week after 5 straight games in which he was held under 40 yards receiving. A slow start to the season for him. Season high 8 catches, over 140 yards receiving, and a punt return touchdown. Big day for him.
Fake to Powell, right into Spencer's hands. Dominic Ellis there, and Spencer beats him for extra yardage, using that speed from 19.
Well, we talk all the time about different ways in which teams can use speed to get guys open. You're going to see Deontay Spencer here, not using it to go vertical, but using it to shake coverage, going horizontally across that field, just outrunning people.
Trevor Harris goes over 15,000 yards in his career. Sinopoli the catch with a flag down. Sinopoli rested most of the week with an ankle issue, but doesn't miss tonight. 11 catches in his last start against the Owls.
Illegal contact on the receiver, Montreal number 11. That penalty's declined. First down, Ottawa.
Chip Cox drew the flag, but the catch by Sinopoli will stand.
Yeah, terrific start to the season for Sinopoli. That 11 catches against Montreal was a career high. He matched it and upped his yardage total a couple weeks later against BC.
53 catches is the CFL's best so far this year. There's Beaulieu getting it back in his hands after being stripped of the football on his last series.
Yeah, Chris, you mentioned Beaulieu had a big touchdown, 47-yard catch and run play against Montreal early on. It was one that sort of set the tone for the REDBLACKS in their early season victory over the Alouettes.
9 for 9 out of the gate for Harris. 2nd and 6. 4-man rush, stands in. Crosser, Sinopoli drops it. And the Alouettes, do they get it or does Sinopoli get it back? Battle for the football, and it looks like it'll be Ventrell McMillan who ends up with the ball.
And the immediate question to me, and probably from the REDBLACKS bench, did he have it?
Well, let's take a look as we go to break. Looks like he did. Friday Night Football keeps rolling next week. REDBLACKS take on the Blue Bombers. Winnipeg coming off a thriller last night. The win over Hamilton actually gets underway 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on TSN 1, 3, and 5. Guy that takes the spot to veteran John Bowman comes up with a loose football.
Yeah, and you'll see here, Sinopoli has control, takes a step and a half, braces himself for contact. But that ball popped out. Right away, it's Chris Aki delivering the hit. McMillan with the recovery.
Alouettes turned it over 5 times in their first 6 possessions last week. Ottawa's coughed it up on each of their first 2 possessions tonight. Goes sidearm. Mansell finds Ernest Jackson loose. And this is a terrific sign for Montreal that they're finally getting the ball in the hands of a former Eastern MOP, Ernest Jackson.
Yeah, you think back to that season in which Ernest Jackson was a finalist for the league's MOP award. A year in which he didn't have a single drop. Terrific season for the REDBLACKS. Moved on to Montreal last year as a free agent. Seemed like a square peg in a round hole all season long.
Good early numbers for a guy with only 14 catches coming into the game. Into Ottawa territory. Quickly out of his hands. Catch and release to Sutton. And Sutton taken down around the 44-yard line with a flag down and a battle between Darius Bowman and Jonathan Rose on the near side, well away from the play.
There's 2 fouls on the play. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Montreal number 19. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Ottawa number 9. It will be 2nd down where the ball became dead.
So the penalties wash out, and Rose and Bowman have got acquainted.
Yeah, nobody willing to back down from that one. That should be a good battle to watch all evening between two big, strong guys.
So 2nd and 6. Nice play fake there, and there's Bowman with his first catch, but that ball came loose. Red Blacks trying to get it back. First catch is an Alouette by Bowman, but he gives it back.
Yeah, a good high percentage play call for the Alouettes. It's just going to be a quick slant. Let Darius Bowman use his size to get inside, shield the defender from that football. Jonathan Rose, trailing him on the play, managed to grab the left arm, tug it back, and loosen Bowman's grip.
It's a matchup we'll watch tonight. Started with a pair of flags, and now Rose gets an upper hand with a forced fumble. Not much question. It's been a much better start for number 2.
Better start, and good play calling too out of the gate for Kahari Jones, the offensive coordinator.
But back in the hands of Ottawa at their 29, and William Powell not going anywhere. Again, that's Vantrell McMillan leading the charge. 18-man games of experience in the front 4 for Montreal.
Versus how many for John Bowman alone?
Yep, 205.
Remarkable shift.
I mentioned Harris, 11 for 11, perfect in the opening quarter last week. Throwing down here. And he's 11 for 11 tonight as he hooks up with Dominic Rhymes.
Well, Dominic Rhymes is a guy that they anticipated having play in the slot this season, but when he got hurt early on, R.J. Harris eventually took over that spot, so Rhymes gets the start on the outside, and here you see the size you talked about, Chris. Big, strong guy, able to hold on to that ball in traffic, fight off the contact of the defender.
Fake to Powell, gonna air it out. He's got Spencer loose, and he can't hang on. Deontay Spencer had a couple steps on Taekwon Glass.
And this was a little bit of the story of the early part of the season for Deontay Spencer and his slow start. Couple opportunities where he did get in behind people. Open chances. Beautifully thrown ball by Trevor Harris. Spencer gets there. And unable to make the squeeze. He's had some of those drops, and I know both he and the Red Blacks were hoping that last week's big game was a sign that he had shaken those difficulties, so hopefully he'll put that one out of his mind and bounce back.
It's Woody Barron to the sidelines. So he has to come out.
Yeah, Barron's a guy they're gonna have to rely on a little bit. He's really the only guy in that roster suited to play the 3 technique defensive tackle.
He's the vet with 8 games.
That's right. In his first CFL season, they were very high on him coming out of camp. But they're gonna rely on him to supply some pressure from the inside now as they become much more inexperienced in terms of their edge rushers.
Fabian Foote out of McMaster checks into the game. Looks like they'll go to a 3-man front on 2nd and 10. Clock ticking down in this opening quarter. Another shot here, and he wanted to go right back to Spencer. Incomplete.
Well, I know our resident quarterbacks Matt Dunnigan and Henry Burris had the debate in recent weeks about going right back to a receiver, getting him involved after a drop, after a fumble, whatever the case may be. Yet another indication of that with Harris looking to Spencer that time.
So it's Richie Leone to punt. Taekwon Glass is back. watches that. And Glass dropped it back in the end zone. He's going to bring it out. Not a good idea. And he is dropped at the 3-yard line. So 2 turnovers for the Red Blacks in the opening quarter. 1 for the Alouettes. 1 point on the board for Montreal. And after 15 minutes of football, Manziel and the Alouettes lead by 1. 15 minutes to remind you it's not just about quarterbacks, because both look sharp in the opening 15 minutes, and yet 1 point because of turnovers, drops, and perhaps bad decision there by Taekwon Glass.
Yeah, and Glass is an inexperienced returner. We talked about the difference between what you saw with Deontay Spencer, an experienced guy with a punt that was coming inside the 10, inside the 5, didn't even chase it, just let it go over his head, give up the single. Taekwon Glass, we talk about putting an inexperienced quarterback in the best possible position to succeed. It's not just about what you do with your play calls, but it's also about things like that coaching. You got to make sure your inexperienced returner knows, let that go for the single so that we get the ball at the 35-yard line. We don't want Johnny Manziel to have to start with the ball at the 4-yard line. Put him in the best possible position to succeed. It goes much beyond just the play calling of the offensive coordinator.
See if this is the spot where he might use his legs. Oh, a fake here, and he's going to load it up. Looking for B.J. Cunningham, and he can't hang on at midfield. Looked like he had it, and then Jonathan Rose prevailed to knock it loose.
Well, once again, you're seeing pretty good protection. They get a couple of double teams there as they again go max protect. You know, it looked initially like that ball hung up there for a long time, but it ended up dropping in just perfectly to the intended receiver. B.J. Cunningham, but in tight coverage, is unable to make the squeeze, but well-placed ball from Johnny Manziel.
2nd and 10. Here comes Heat. Escapes that. Loads it up. Wants Cunningham again. And incomplete. A lot of Red Blacks in the vicinity, including that young safety getting his first start, Justin Howell. And Cunningham indicating that he might have been interfered with.
Yeah, you see Justin Howell, number 21, getting in on the play, right hand in there to disrupt the reception. Howell's 6th round pick, as you mentioned.
Was that enough for a challenge? It's certainly in an area of the field where if they got a call, it would give them some relief. So let's see. Doesn't look like it.
They could have had that relief by giving up the single point on the punt.
Yep. Now we'll see if they give up 2. And they do. And the Red Blacks, after that Glass error, do give up a pair of points. Well, it was a stunning comeback by the Argos last week, and we asked quarterback Trevor Harris how long it took to get over it.
It was tough because that night I paced in my hotel room till about 3:30 in the morning and just had a tough time with it. Obviously, because you know we let one slip, but it's not the first time, and I'm sure it's not the last time in my career that that stuff happens. But it's always going to bug me just because I'm so passionate. But at the same time, it's a long season. It's an 18-round fight. This is 1 round, and you know we just lost the end of the round, and we're going to come back next week swinging.
Asked him about that and whether he felt for Johnny Manziel, and he said there are no get-well cards in football. The 11 for 13, 125 yards for Trevor Harris first quarter, and there's a knockdown interception picked up by Chris Aki. Touchdown Alouettes. A 35-yard return for Chris Aki.
3rd Red Blacks turnover of this football game. The defensive line, where you wondered if they'd be able to get a little bit of pressure, get close enough to get hands on that football. Deflection at the line of scrimmage. Chris Aki continues what has been a breakout season for him. He's right in the middle of that defense. Nice reaction to the football.
Boy, he's had a terrific year. Second in the league coming in tackles. Now a pick 6, and maybe he'll send a thank you card after that. Fourth-year man out of Laurier really coming into his own. And 3 turnovers in the opening 16.5 minutes of this game by the home team. Looks like Ryan Brown got a mid on it, and Aki did the rest.
Well, Chris Aki is the man of the moment with the first touchdown of this football game. It comes off the 3rd Ottawa turnover. This opportunity is created by the big dog on that defensive line. Ryan Brown, 6'5", using all of it to get the arms up, get a hand on that football. Great reaction by Chris Aki to scoop it up and take it to the house.
Well now, Beatty big boot. Spencer wants that to go right through at will. No points. It'll come out to the 25. But suddenly there's a little belief in a team that hasn't had much for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, and obviously creating some turnovers has helped for the Montreal Alouettes out of the gate here. Getting after this Ottawa offense. Hey, Alouette fans actually have an opportunity to have bragging rights over their buddies from down the road here in Ottawa.
Rich Stubler's defense has been much better on the road this season than at home. And that trend continuing so far tonight. First down, Harris underneath. And Sinopoli trying to secure the football as he is dropped. Well, they've averaged 44.5 points against at home, but a much different story on the road where they did get their only victory at Mosaic over the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I'm not sure there's a reason for that, but the trend is continuing.
Yeah, terrific start for Rich Stubler's group, veteran coach.
Second and a couple, inside handoff, and Powell got a first down. Dominic Ellis with the tackle. Powell wants the football.
He'll be down there lobbying for more touches. Veteran Ottawa offensive line. Now with everyone healthy, John Gott at left guard, Nolan McMillan at the right guard spot, Jason Lauzon-Seguin, who missed the start of the season, at right tackle.
First down 39. And out of the backfield, here's Powell again. He's been shut down in recent weeks on the ground. And Rick Campbell talked about this being maybe an option to get him loose a little more often.
Yeah, there you see the numbers in terms of first 3 games versus last 4 in his production in the ground game. You get opposing defenses keying on him a little bit, and obviously whether you're playing from ahead or behind becomes a factor in terms of the opportunities for the running back to carry the ball as well.
20-yard gain, first down into Montreal territory. Quick slant, caught Harris, down by Aki at the 45, so that's a pickup of 6 for the native of Wurzburg, Germany, the same hometown as Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, R.J. Harris, born in Germany, grew up in the States, played his high school football in the state of Maryland.
Second and 4. Time underneath. Powell dropped right at the line of scrimmage. Aki chalks up another stat, and a decision for Rick Campbell. Does he go after a 52-yarder here? Does he punt? Or does he gamble on 3rd and about 3?
Well, so far the offense is staying on the field.
Might be inspired by what he saw from the Argos last week. The Argos converted 5 times on 3rd down last week. And they're just trying to draw Montreal. Alouettes don't bite. And now they'll take the time count, and that means they'll send the punt team on.
Ottawa number 7, a 5-yard penalty. It will remain third down.
And in this part of the field, it's worth the 5-yard gamble. The 5 yards that you're playing with from an Ottawa point of view. If you're punting for field position. Young kicker, you're not going to try a field goal from there. Now we'll see if Taekwon Glass has been given some more clear instructions as the returner this time. Going to go with 2 deep men, Dominique Ellis.
Ellis back as well, Richie Leone. Averaging 47.8 a punt. Looks for the corner. And he's going to get that one inside the 10-yard line. Ellis took down somebody, and well, they're going to mark out at the 12, but somebody was sent flying at the end of the play by Ellis, and that's drawn a crowd, but it doesn't look like it drew a flag. No penalty. Another long field for Johnny Manziel. 6 for 9, 77 yards so far. Well, for Johnny Manziel to make the next step to be better on the field, he'd have to be better in the classroom. And with more on that, here's Matthew Shinetti.
No doubt, Chris, because when speaking to head coach Mike Sherman yesterday, if anyone understands Johnny Manziel's ability, it is Mike Sherman, because as we all know, he recruited him to Texas A&M. But what Sherman wants to see is Manziel's growing ability in the classroom, as you said, the academic side of it. Being in the film room, understanding when he's in meetings. We saw him on the practice field discussing different things with his teammates, but away from the field, that's where Sherman wants to see growth. And in particular, he told us, quote, it's not so much about being better than your opponent, it's about being smarter than your opponent. Guys?
We've seen historically in this league that the star quarterbacks, your starting quarterbacks all the time.
Number 43, a 5-yard penalty. It will remain first down.
Are the guys who keep the longest hours. Arrive when it's dark, leave when it's dark. And that's how you get to the top.
Mike Sherman told us yesterday the playlist not much longer than it was a week ago. Some different formations with the same plays, and just be better at the short list he has. 1st and 5, and he's got Ernest Jackson again, or excuse me, Darius Bowman with the catch. Be interesting to see how productive Bowman can be playing on the outside for a new team after struggling in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and Bowman's certainly a guy who arrives with something to prove. Terrific string of seasons he put together with the Edmonton Eskimos. Eskimos let him walk in the offseason, never really fit in Winnipeg in the early going, but he wants to demonstrate that he is still one of the league's elite.
First down, Sutton with a stunner step, and somehow broke loose. Yards after contact for a hard running first down for Tyrell Sutton. Well, we talked to Mike Sherman yesterday about how he assessed what happened last week.
With 2 minutes left in the game, I went down to the end and said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He said, "Let's get ready for next week." And he said, "I'm okay. This is humbling, but I'm okay." He said, "You okay?" I said, "I'm okay. But we have to build off of this." He said, "That's not going to be a problem. It gives us something to shoot for and to get better from." And he said, "Trust me, I'm okay. We're going to be better next week."
Got to have some resilience and confidence to be okay after that, but said he doesn't want to have that feeling again.
Yeah, for sure. And it is all about, and regardless whether you're a quarterback or any other position in sports at this level, I truly believe it's all about keeping it an even keel in terms of your reactions to success and failure. You learn from your mistakes and you build on your positives, and he has to look at this as a learning experience. As the saying goes, if you learn from it, it's a lesson, not a mistake.
Those numbers are good, and he has used 5 different receivers tonight. Flag comes down, spins that one, and it comes up short, intended for Eugene Lewis. Like that was in the vicinity of holding.
Holding, retenu, Montreal, Montreal, number 68, numéro 68. 10-yard penalty, diverge de pénalité, premier repris, first down repeated.
La Garde Gauche, Philip Blake.
Well done, mon ami.
Well, I'm not sure it was well done, but it was an attempt. So 1st and 20. And they call the draw to Sutton. Oh, what contact there. Avery Williams, but how about Sutton springing forward? And that kind of reminds you of the contact in the first meeting between Tyrell Sutton and Corey Tyndall.
If I were Tyrell Sutton right now, I'd be lobbying for a fine.
Wow.
Quite frankly, Sutton.
And look at him try and carry the pile for a couple extra.
I've watched a lot of football in my life. I have never seen anything quite like that. Helmet popping straight up in the air.
Sutton goes to the sidelines. He's okay. Helmet a little worse for wear. Second and long. Manziel wants to load it up, but he's in trouble, and he gets dropped. Taken down by A.C. Leonard, who has his 4th sack of the season.
And this is why A.C. Leonard was brought over from Saskatchewan in free agency to try and spark that pass rush. Just a great head fake, getting his body out of the way of Tony Washington. See the athleticism that made Leonard successful as a tight end earlier in his career.
Big game last week, 7 tackles and a sack. Beatty with a line drive, almost hit one of his kick cover guys. The flag comes down for no yards, which will be of the 5-yard variety. Alouettes continue to lead.
We want Johnny! We want Johnny! Oh, how can you wear blue pants?
I couldn't find my black one.
That's a fine.
You got to pick because of your jam.
Yeah, hey, throw 4 picks, be down by 50, and still get Johnny called.
Imagine Simone Lawrence starring in CFL Wired. Catch it Tuesday, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific on TSN2.
Yeah, not exactly the shyest guy in the Canadian Football League.
6.5 to go, second quarter. Hand off to William Powell. And Powell drives his way to the 46 and has 4.
A couple Red Blacks offensive linemen slow to get up after that play. It appeared they got their legs tangled up with one another.
Speaking of which, Sir Vincent Rogers got tangled up last week at the worst possible time.
Yeah, you can never fault a guy for hustling to get downfield. Just a tough break for the big fella and his team.
Just the 4th carry of the night for Powell, and it sets up 2nd and 6. That one gunned, and Ellingson the catch in front of Dozier, the Swiss Army knife in that Montreal defense, playing on the corner tonight with the late scratch of Tommy Campbell.
And here you get a look. Dozier's covering out on the outside. He's going to come down to attack this quick slant from Ellingson.
So Ottawa back in Montreal territory. Harris on a roll. Complete. Sinopli's got another catch. And another Ottawa first down inside the 40-yard line. And it's the 4th catch of the night for Sinopli.
Another quick hitter for Sinopli, a guy who's become so good after the catch as well. You see him fighting for extra yards.
Powell again, left side. Enoch Mwamba puts a stop to that. And Sinopli on a torrid pace this year, which would be 2nd best all time if he continues.
And you see 2nd best in CFL history. I would set a new mark for homegrown receivers.
56 catches in this is 8th game. That incomplete, intended for Ellingson. And it will be 3rd down. And the field goal unit will come on for the Red Blacks.
Led by their rookie place kicker, Lewis Ward, out of the University of Ottawa, free agent signing for the Red Blacks this season.
And what a terrific signing it has been. T.J. Graham waiting in the end zone if he misses for the 2nd time this year. But apparently he doesn't miss. That's 20 in a row.
Make your getaway.
Score now within 1 of the consecutive field goal record held by Luka Kanji by CFL rookies.
Yeah, just a great pickup. He's right under the Red Blacks' noses. This is a guy passed over in the 2017 draft. Nobody brought him to camp last year. For any team, everybody had a shot at him. Nobody took that shot.
Do you bring guys like that to the Dwayne Ford Combine? Or?
I used to. I've gotten out of the combine biz now that the league has taken over the regionals.
Here's Manziel, forced to throw that one away. Pressure being supplied by the safety, Justin Howell. Red Blacks trying to dial up some pressure, and Noel Thorpe yesterday talked about forcing him to one side, making him a left-handed quarterback and cutting the field in half for him.
Yeah, that's your ideal if you can work your pass rush and your pressure that way, bring the blitzes from the offensive right side and flush him to his left so he's basically not throwing to his strength.
That time it was to the right and still effective, but here's Sutton, and Tyrell Sutton with the 1st down.
And watch the way Sutton sets up the block for his puller, makes sure he sells to the outside, forces Howell to go outside to keep leverage, makes that block much easier for his guard, Philip Blake, who's pulling out to lead the way for him.
So we've hit the 3-minute warning. Alouettes with the football. Alouettes with a 3-point lead here at TD Place.
Back in the studio, the guys are getting all pretty for halftime. We're going to talk about what's been different for Manziel and the Alouettes this time around, and honoring the Ottawa Grey Cup champions of 68 and 69, the 69 team finally getting their Grey Cup rings. Back to CC and Dwayne.
Rod, we can delay things if they need more time to get pretty. 1st down, Manziel throws in the flat, and B.J. Cunningham comes up with it. Jonathan Rose in the neighborhood. And Manziel in this 1st half, more passing yards than last week when he had 104.
He's taken a couple of shots downfield. The completions have largely been of the high percentage variety. But there have been some opportunities, and he's made some nice throws downfield as well.
Changing the play here, 1st down at the Ottawa 52. With LeBlanc and Sutton flanking him. Pressure off the edge. Ball caught by Bowman. That looked like the Adarius Bowman of old, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bread and butter. That's the 2nd time we've seen them go to Bowman on the quick slant. And, you know, I mean, if Adarius Bowman, he's a guy who's always moved around as a receiver. I mean, it's the way of CFL offenses is receivers have to be flexible, have to be able to show the versatility to play from different spots. But Adarius Bowman is a guy who's had some success in his career lining up as the boundary wideout. Oftentimes you'll get man coverage. You can isolate him over there, sometimes go quads. to the field and get Bowman as the lone guy over there and let him go to work. With those quick slants, it plays to Bowman's strengths. Ability to get a good release and use his size.
Ended up dead at the 42.5.
A little confusion here on where they spotted the ball.
42.5. It's going to be 2nd down and 1 yard to go.
They had indicated a first down on the chains, but it is going to be 2nd and short, and Antonio Pipkin, who will handle short yardage, is in 6'3", 225. Cut earlier this year, but brought back. I did the Alouettes 3 weeks ago. None of the quarterbacks in Calgary are here tonight. Drew Willie, Matthew Schultz, Vernon Adams, all out of the lineup, and we've got Johnny Manziel, Antonio Pipkin, and Austin Apodaca on the depth chart this evening.
Interesting to note, as you said, I mean, Pipkin hasn't been with the team the entire time, but the only one of that trio who was with this team in training camp. So much turnover. You heard Davis Sanchez talk about it on the back end in the secondary. The amount of turnover they've had, guys who haven't played beside each other. They don't have a single player in the secondary playing tonight where he started the season. Offensive line, they've gone through at least 12 different starters. So there are a lot of factors at play in terms of the Alouettes trying to find their way this season.
Manziel changing the play again with the pressure on. He'll get that into the flat, incomplete. Eugene Lewis can't hang on. Lewis has been targeted a few times without a catch so far this evening.
And Lewis is a guy for whom the Alouettes have high hopes this season. He had a terrific training camp in his 2nd year with the club. Really took some strides forward. As the coaching staff describes it, a guy who has earned the trust of the quarterbacks.
Second and 10, nosing into Forrest Beatty range, and that pass through the hands of Sutton incomplete. And now will Mike Sherman send out Beatty to punt or to try for 3? Would be a 49-yard attempt. He's hit from 52. Wind is not an issue, and he has the tee out. Looks like they're a man short.
Yeah, they run Sean Jameson on late. Apparently didn't get the memo, thought the punt team was coming out.
So here's Beatty putting it up, but wide. It'll be a long missed field goal and 1 to make it 9-5 in favor of Montreal. We mentioned Alouettes without the services of their senior man on the defensive line, defensive end John Bowman, who was injured last week with a torn bicep. And the future Hall of Famer standing by with Matthew Shinetti.
You know, John, Chris just mentioned, and so has Dwayne, that there have been a lot of young bucks in that defense that have had to step up in your absence. How do you assess that they've played so far?
I think they're playing good. Ottawa's a quick passing team, so most of our things will be getting our hands up, trying to get in the way of Trevor Harris. Doing a good job so far. Getting a lot of pressure at the middle, forcing some mistakes, and hopefully we can maintain it for the next 2 quarters.
You know, John, I understand that you're all about your game, but the fact is, what did you think about the way that Mike Sherman went ahead and showed that play when after you were still in the game with that apparent torn bicep that you crawled to try to finish a tackle? He talked about fanatical effort. How much did that mean to you to be an example for your teammates?
I mean, in the past, I haven't been from previous coaches, I haven't been given this much glory. I shy away from that. I'm just an old school player, you know, and he's showing guys my age or, you know, guys from a different era of football can still contribute and play, and that's just the only way I know how to play.
What are we going to see you next?
ASAP. That's all I know.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking to Mike Sherman about John Bowman yesterday, and Sherman got John Bowman all wrong. He saw a guy that had been here forever and thought, oh, I got to deal with an entitled veteran player. He couldn't have been more wrong and couldn't have been more pleased.
Yeah, so true. And you hear John Bowman, how humble he is, and he talks about, you know, a guy from an older era, an older player, whatever. It's got nothing to do with age. John Bowman is just a guy who knows how to play the game the right way, how to be a good teammate, etc. He's got a place on my team anytime.
So just over a minute left. A fresh set of downs for the Red Blacks near midfield. After Dominic Davis with the successful quarterback sneak, and still a chance for Ottawa to get out of this first half with the lead despite 3 turnovers. Quickly out of his hands, and R.J. Harris has got that, and he'll step out of bounds. T.J. Heath there defensively for Montreal.
It was R.J. Harris. Chris, you alluded earlier to Sir Vincent Rogers getting tangled up with a teammate last game as he appeared to be on his way to a Red Blacks touchdown. Rogers hustling downfield. Just clipped the foot of his teammate and tripped him up.
Harris over 200 yards in the opening half. Adds to that with that completion to Dominic Rhymes, a little shaken up by the contact.
And here's a look back at R.J. Harris in a game to establish himself in that starting lineup. 5 catches, 73 yards. This was the play as he looked like he was headed for pay dirt. Sir Vincent, big fella trying to get down there, get involved, and get a block. Just tripped up his teammate.
Gotta love that he wanted to be part of the convoy, but when you're that big, sometimes you just can't help but get in the way. Top offensive lineman in the league in 2015. Injured player down as Rhymes continues to get attention after that contact.
Yeah, Sir Vincent Rogers is often forgotten when we talk about the airlift of free agents in year 2 of the Red Blacks' existence, that 2015 season. They brought in the 4 receivers: Ellingson, Chris Williams, Ernest Jackson, Brad Sinopoli, all arriving as free agents, putting together monster seasons. But Sir Vincent Rogers coming over from Toronto as a free agent at the same time, solidifying that left tackle position on the offensive line, a big part of that team's success and going to back-to-back Grey Cups.
So Rhymes to the sidelines. Trevor Harris, 20 of 24 in the opening half, 209 yards, and trying to create something to show for it before the half is done. And downfield, got Ellingson. Found an opening at the 21-yard line, and the Red Blacks are on the move. 22-yard connection.
As the Red Blacks receivers had those back-to-back seasons of 4 guys all going over 1,000 yards, one of the big things they talked about was that they were always willing to sacrifice for each other to help each other get open. That play is a great example. You saw Deontay Spencer with the clear-out route to allow Ellingson to get open underneath.
4 catches, 42 yards. Harris in trouble, and he is dropped. And John Bowman's boys continue to shine here in this first half. That's Jesse Joseph celebrating a sack.
Well, Joseph, University of Connecticut product, Montreal native, getting an opportunity here, coming from the top of your screen, offensive left side. He's got a bit of an edge on John Gott, who is blocking him straight up.
Sacks even at 2 apiece, just the 11th on the year for Montreal. So second and long, Harris time. Harris got Ellingson, and down around the 11. Let's see where they mark it. Going to be close to the first down.
Just watch here how Greg Ellingson works his way into the open window. Curling around. His coverage shifts. He finds the soft spot right in the middle of those 3 defenders.
In a bit of a bind here because he's short. 3rd and inches, but only 12 seconds to go. And the timeout called now.
Ottawa.
So they've got time to get the first down, and they'll decide whether or not to go for the touchdown or just take the 3. Unless they can squeeze 3 plays in, or 2 plays in.
Yeah, a bit of a bind. A couple seconds ticking off the clock there.
Be easy if that play had been a first down.
Yeah.
Timer, please reset the clock to read 12 seconds.
Okay, so
the timeout was called prior to the whistle.
But you're absolutely right, Chris, is assuming the Red Blacks are going to get the first down with what looks like less than a yard here. But you feel like it's a bit of a wasted play given the time situation.
So they try and take care of business, and they're going to fake it. End zone, incomplete. Going for Marco Dubois, the rookie from Laval, who has not made a Canadian Football League catch, and they turn it over on downs.
You know, there are people that are going to be horrified to see them march the ball down there and come away with absolutely nothing. I actually kind of like this play call. Looked like Davis might have had a shot to Dubois a little bit earlier from the initial angle. Tough throw as he's rolling to his left to try and throw it back in there. And he had to keep moving as he had Enoch Mwamba in pursuit.
4th turnover of the half, a turnover on downs there, 260 yards of offense and 5 points for the home side. I think a much different first half than a lot of people anticipated.
Yeah, again, tough to come away with nothing, but I like the aggressiveness of the call.
30 minutes in the books. A lead for the Alouettes. Manziel with 128 passing yards in the opening half. Let's check in with the panel and Rod Smith.
Thank you, Chris. With Davis and Maddie and Milton. You know, we asked beforehand, we were talking about this, what needs to change for the Alouettes? I think the Red Blacks kind of helping them out a little bit, but very different from Montreal and Manziel.
No question. It was like the perfect storm when Montreal beat Saskatchewan early in the season. 4 turnovers by Saskatchewan. Montreal took full advantage. But biggest question is, have we seen improvement in Johnny Manziel? Yes, we have. When I talked to Kahari Jones today at length, we talked about getting the ball out quickly, high percentage throws. He established a run as well, and that's why you see him with great protection by his offensive line, and he finds Ernest Jackson pushing the ball down the field. The screens, obviously when they're dropping 8, rushing 4, you're going to take advantage of those underneath throws. Here, little run pass option, just get it out in the flats. Ernest Jackson came to life in that first half. And then this, absolutely love this. How this is Johnny seeing it, understanding, good point fake, establish a run, take control. Kahari said, Matty, this guy can call his own plays. I just need more time with him. And here you see him running hurry-up offense at the line of scrimmage, seeing what the defense is giving him, and then getting his players, verbalizing an offense to his players after 7 practices and throwing a strike, moving the chains. To me, this is marked improvement. This is exactly what you're looking for from week to week with Johnny Manziel.
And Kahari Jones is the perfect offensive coordinator for someone like Johnny Manziel. Kahari is smart, but more important that he's poised. He never gets rattled. As a player, Kahari used to get pummeled, but he never got rattled. He's smart, and that makes a big difference. And also now, this defense is playing better. This Montreal Alouette defense is finally making some plays. And they've gotten some yards put on them, but they've capitalized off these turnovers. Chip Cox, who's been doing this for years, making a fumble. And then the guy that Davis Sanchez is going to talk about, Chris Aki. He's in his position making some plays.
Yes, he is.
He has the fumble. He has the interception. I know you like him a lot, Chad.
I do. In the first few years, Milt, he was playing at free safety. Now, his passport might say he's a free safety, but his body type, Stevie Wonder can tell you his body type is a will linebacker, and it shows he's making plays down there in the box. And I've never in my career, guys, sat there as a defensive guy and been concerned that a rookie quarterback is going to come back against us. It's not going to happen. But right now with the lead, it's so much different for Johnny and this offense. They can run Suddy. They can sit and play action. Matty, you saw how good he looked in the pocket and play action. And then scoot for a few first downs with his legs.
Yeah, and, you talk about a guy that's as physical as Chris Aki, and those guys just gravitate towards the line of scrimmage.
Get him towards the box.
That's right. And this guy thrives thrives in that situation. He's been having a fabulous year.
Great blitzer, too.
Absolutely, man. He's all over the
you know
football.
what a powerful drug is? Hope. Hope. When you go into a game, they're going to come out halftime, these Alouettes, and say, we have hope. We have opportunity. Last week, they knew they didn't have a chance. This week, they have hope. They have a chance.
Anything is possible.
Anything.
Well, that's sad. And Ottawa helping them out, too. You may like the call, you may not at the end of the third down gamble, Dominic Davis, but ends up being just a 4-point game. Montreal in the lead. We'll be back.
Humbled in his debut, looking for some progress in start number 2. And Manziel with lots of time got Ernest Jackson. Manziel lost the ball, gonna have to eat it. There's a knockdown interception picked up by Chris Aki. Touchdown Alouettes.
It's halftime in Ottawa. They're bringing this Grey Cup out to honor the great old Ottawa Rough Rider team 50 years ago, 68 and 69. Of significance for the 69 team, they never got championship rings, and they're going to rectify that tonight. There were 23 of the 25 surviving alumni there at this, led by the legendary Russ Jackson, Ronnie Stewart, Whit Tucker. See some of the players there, and also family of players who have since deceased, but a very nice gesture to bring them back in and celebrate this. And also, as said, for the 69 team, there was 6 players that weren't on the 68 team that never got a ring, and they finally do get one tonight.
Gene Gaines is one of these guys.
He was one of them.
Recognizing the greats that came before us.
Yes.
A great story about Gene Gaines. When I was a kid growing up just outside Vancouver, I actually called the BC Lions office, cold called, never met any of them in my life, and I asked Gene, got a hold of Gene Gaines and asked him for some help
there he is.
as I was going down to the States to play junior college football. Gene Gaines invited me to the office and spent an hour with me, never met me, spent an hour with me, teaching me technique before I went down south to play college football. A great man, a great CFL man, Gene Gaines.
And stories like that, it just brings these guys to life, and their accomplishments, they're champions both on and off the football field, proof in the pudding right there. And the Ottawa REDBLACKS, they continue to get it right by allowing to make this happen, right? To give them their just due.
Yeah, because that's special. And, you know, both of you guys have Grey Cups. Unfortunately, I don't have one. But if I would have won a Grey Cup and they didn't give me my ring, it would have been ugly around there. So it's beautiful that those guys are being recognized. I know it's years later and some of them aren't around, but that's something special right there. That's something they'll remember.
The longer we're away from the game, the less the stats, the All-Stars, those things don't matter. What matters is relationships and the Grey Cup as well. Yeah. That's special. I'm glad these guys are getting that on.
Matty, I know you know Sudsy Don Sutherland. He was on that team as well. He was there, too.
I saw him.
You know, I saw it. Grew up in Ottawa, 7 years old in the 68 team. Russ Jackson, 80 yards. To Margene Atkins, 73. He's there as well. And for a kid growing up in Ottawa, that's an awesome memory to see that team recognized at the half. We'll have more. 9-5 Alouettes leading. We'll be back. Diversity is strength. Remember the campaign last year? They're bringing it in again for this one. The REDBLACKS and the Alouettes. Coaches, non-active roster players asked to put the T-shirt on for a great message for the Canadian Football League and its diversity, and for Canada as well. That campaign beginning. Halftime stats. Here's Milt.
Well, Johnny Manziel had 104 passing yards last week. He already has 128. And Trevor Harris, he's tearing it up.
Brought along by Tyrell Sutton, standing by with Matthew Shinetti.
Well, Sonny, I know how much you love that physical football, but you spoke to me this week about patience, about giving Johnny time. Seems like you did that with your contribution this first half. What did you think about how the offense was moving?
We did pretty good. We moving up and down the field, but we got to put some points on the board. 20-20 isn't good enough. 9-5 isn't good enough right now. With our defense playing the way that they're playing, we got to come out and back them up and put up some more points.
Has your helmet ever popped off like that before?
Nah, but I'm still good, so it don't really matter.
Thanks, Sonny.
Appreciate you.
The most legendary Ottawa CFL player ever, Russ Jackson, helped spearhead this night as well, and he's among those being honored. His final game, the Grey Cup Championship in 1969. We'll be back.
Visitors have the lead as we get set for the second half here at TD Place. First to the sidelines, Matthew Shinetti's with Brad Sinopoli.
Brad, sometimes this has happened with the offense so far this season. You put up a lot of yards but aren't able to punch it in the end zone. What kind of adjustments did you make at halftime?
I mean, we just got to take care of the ball. It's little things like that. We've driven the field. We just it's our own mistakes that are doing it. So we just got to forget the first half, go out and play like we're doing, and just not make those mistakes.
Anything you're seeing on their defense? Again, you're able to get as close as you were before halftime, but anything that you're seeing that you can exploit in the second half?
I mean, they're doing a good job. They're playing hard. They're hitting hard. They're forcing us to try to get yards after the catch. We just got to be able to come out. We got to run the ball on first down, get good yards, and we just got to make plays. That's simple as that.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Well, a point for every 52 yards gained in the first half for Rick Campbell's crew. 260 yards of offense and only 5 points. One more point than turnover in the first half.
And it seems to be a little bit of a trend sometimes for this Ottawa team. Always very productive offensively, but not necessarily where they want to be on the scoreboard when it's all said and done. We'll see what they can do here in the second half.
Looking for a different second half than they had a week ago at BMO. And they get the ball first with Deontay Spencer on the return. A flag comes down as he gets loose across the 40 and steps out at the 43-yard line. We'll sort out the flag, but let's take a look back at some of the miscues by Ottawa in the first half.
Yeah, they had some opportunities, as alluded to. For first half turnovers, some drops.
At the distance to the goal, first down.
Alouettes cashing in on the Chris Aki interception for a touchdown. And of course, with a chance to put points on the board, turning it over on downs to close out that first half.
And a holding call on that kick return by Spencer. So instead of the 43, Red Blacks have a long field. They'll start this second half from their 9-yard line. And they fake to Powell. Back in the hands of Sinopoli, cut down by Taekwon Glass. And Sinopoli's got his 5th catch of the game.
And we talked a little bit in the first half, Chris, about Montreal doing things in terms of field position to put a quarterback making his 2nd career start in the best possible position to be successful. Now here's an opportunity for the defense to do their part, provide good field position for the offense coming out if they can get a stop.
Second and 4. And that quick slant, nice catch by R.J. Harris. That'll dig him out of a bad spot and get them all the way up to the 34-yard line.
Now you're going to see Harris working from that slot, hit the quick slant, find that opening. Trevor Harris threading the needle.
Trevor 13 of 14 since they picked 6 by Aki. Has some time here and unable to connect with Sinopoli. Glass in coverage and Harris misses an open target.
Yeah, it looked like Sinopoli maybe had a little trouble getting off contact from the defensive back. It wasn't quite as wide as Harris anticipated when he made that throw.
Second and 10. Pocket collapsing underneath. That's Rhymes. And he'll get a second down conversion catch. Bouncing back after being helped off in the first half.
And the Red Blacks did a nice job in protection here. You're going to see Aki blitzing off the edge. You're going to see the defensive end twist all the way around. They do a nice job picking this up because this is a route, as you see at the bottom of the screen, it's going to need a little bit of time to develop as Rhymes runs a delayed under.
Now Powell. And a run to midfield for Powell. Chip Cox ends the play, but a 7-yard run for Powell. Good first down production.
And regardless of what happens the rest of this possession, this is exactly what you want from an Ottawa point of view. When you take possession deep in your own end, string together a couple of first downs, move the ball, shift the field in what is a game of field position.
As long as you don't turn it over.
That's it.
Second about 2.5. That slant again. It's caught by Rhymes. It's another Red Black first down.
Well, Dominic Rhymes has added a dimension to this offense. Another big target. Very involved here in the early going of this football game.
To the Alouette 46, 1st and 10, a pump, and then goes right to Spencer. Lunges forward. Looks like he's got about 9, and that will put Trevor Harris over 300 in the game.
Well, in a read-type route for Spencer and Harris, where they both have to recognize what the leverage is of the defender. He backs off, he's running that quick hook. They're both on the same page. Quick hitter to put them close to first down yardage.
Second and short, took a hit there from Cox off the edge, but has the first down.
Yeah, Harris basically ends up one-on-one with Cox in space.
.307 yards passing already. Three receivers field side, and now Powell straight ahead, and a cut back inside down to the 24-yard line. Another first down run. So William Powell having a better start to the second half after a slow first half on the ground.
Yeah, a couple of nice cuts here. Tight end free releases. Catches the defensive end. Jesse Joseph coming a little too far upfield as he's got to honor, contain on the quarterback who could boot out of there. Creates a gap for Powell.
10th play of the drive. Harris steps up. Takes another hit. Enoch Mwamba will drive him to the turf after a gain of about 5.
We don't see Trevor Harris take off a lot, but a good decision under pressure here. Turn that into a positive play and pick up close to 5 on first down.
Just 44 yards rushing this season for Harris coming into the game. So 2nd and 5. 6 receivers out of his hands quickly. And another first down grab here for Deontay Spencer, as the Red Blacks are on the march.
This high percentage play is a drive that started at their own 9-yard line.
This looks like Russ Jackson with Ronnie Stewart, Whit Tucker, Vic Washington, Bo Scott, Whit Tucker.
You sound like you're having flashbacks.
Had a good flashback at halftime. That was neat stuff. First and 10. And into the end zone. Touchdown, R.J. Harris.
And that'll be the first of his CFL career.
Trevor Harris knows it, wants to keep the souvenir. It's a 101-yard touchdown drive to start the second half.
Fantastic start for the Ottawa Red Blacks. You think about the way the first half ended for them. Disappointing end. Missing out on a chance to get points, turning the ball over on downs. But a great response to start the third quarter.
Going to go for 2, 6 for 8 in that department so far this season. And looking for Ellingson, back corner! And nearly a circus catch up against the newcomer in the Alouette secondary, Joe Rankin. So they settle for 6. It's a 2-point lead after a touchdown strike from Harris to Harris. R.J. Harris on the receiving end of that touchdown pass, capping a 12-play, 101-yard touchdown drive, 6:08 off the clock.
A nice route run using his leverage. Drives it back, the defensive back to the inside before he makes that break outside to create space and separation for himself. Trevor Harris drops it in.
Williams stand back on the return. Lowers his head, gets to the 35-yard line. Ottawa had led 2-1. They have a lead of 2 here. It's 11-9 on the first career touchdown for R.J. Harris. Always a legendary team 50 years ago, 1968. It was Russ Jackson to Margene Atkins. Game-winning touchdown, 70 yards. And the Rough Riders won the Grey Cup in 68. Russ Jackson's final game, 69. Ronnie Stewart had a pair of touchdowns. Jackson had 4 touchdown passes, a record that still stands in what was his final game. And as Rod Smith mentioned, the 69 team never got rings until tonight. And with an Ottawa football legend, here's Matthew Shinetti.
Absolutely, CC. I know, Russ, that you just told me you don't like wearing your rings. You don't. But when you're putting that ring on alongside your teammates from that great team, what kind of emotions does it bring out?
Well, it's really special. It is. It's not the ring as much as the fact that we played together for quite a few years. A lot of the guys on those 2 teams, the 68 and 69 Grey Cup teams, and to get recognized with the ring for the 69 is kind of special. And I'll probably wear it for a little while, but then it'll go back in the box, or one of my grandkids will get it.
In terms of the memories sharing tonight alongside your teammates, I mean, in an atmosphere like this, knowing that football in Ottawa is being rejuvenated, I imagine there's excitement alongside the old teammates.
Oh, there is. It's just exciting to be here at this park now because of the fans and what they give to the game. It's the players are giving what they've got, but the fans are part of what's happening here in Ottawa. And to come down here and watch a game is terrific. I go to games in Hamilton, and they say they have a lot of cheering and support, but they better come to a game here and see what it's really like.
Now, I have to ask you, given your greatness, there's a certain quarterback who's with the Montreal Alouettes who's learning the Canadian game. What would your advice be to Johnny Manziel?
Don't get down on yourself. I think that can happen very quickly with a quarterback who doesn't have success and don't get a few wins under your belt. And I think that having come up here and under such pressure and so much pressure on him, game in and game out from everybody, then I think he's just got to learn to adjust to the game. It's a different game up here than in the States, and to try not to get down no matter what happens. Just try and improve each week, and it'll come. It'll fall into place for him.
I appreciate this, Russ. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great advice from one of the all-time greats. 24,593 passing yards. He rushed for over 5,000. I think he could have played a few more years, but there's Don Southern, Hall of Famer Kenny Lehman, Gene Gaines, the guys we're talking about him, Montreal and Ottawa roots, the great Whit Tucker, Ronnie Stewart, and Russ Jackson. Antonio Pipkin in a short yardage after an injury had delayed things, which gave us an opportunity to talk about that team 50 years ago. And I'll tell you what, there was a 12-year-old in Brampton that couldn't watch the Argos or Ticats because of blackouts, and boy, I hung on every pass that Russ Jackson threw.
You know, I'm a little younger. I don't necessarily remember these guys as players, but certainly as a guy who grew up as a CFL fan, I recognize a whole lot of those names. Great teams.
And an interesting connection for Rick Campbell to that 69 team. Here's a quarterback draw, and Manziel with a feet-first slide for a first down. Nice response here by the Alouettes after the touchdown. But we mentioned Rick Campbell, whose dad, Hugh, helped the Saskatchewan Roughriders beat Ottawa in 66, but they were on the losing end in 69. How about these legends like Ronnie Lancaster, George Reed, and here comes a catch from Hugh Campbell playing in his final game. in the Canadian Football League, just like Russ, two of the all-time greats, finished in 1969.
That's some absolutely legendary names, as you mentioned, in those matchups.
And another injured Red Black. I got a chance to meet Margene Atkins today. Antoine Pruneau shaken up. Margene Atkins came here as a 19-year-old, played 3 years, was all CFL twice, won a couple Grey Cups, then went to the Dallas Cowboys and won a Super Bowl, and then 44 years as a firefighter in Texas. And just a terrific guy to talk to, and nice to be a fan for a day.
Amen.
Let's get back to the news of the moment. Manziel, nice fake, getting chased by Howell, running away from Howell, and gets taken down by Howell, and flags fly. See what they rule here.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Ottawa number 21, 15-yard penalty enforced from the end of the run, and a first down for Montreal.
Well, we'll take a look as Manziel gives himself up on the feet for a slide. They call 21 Justin Howell, who's chasing him from the back. But really, I think the call is intended
for 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherrod Baltimore, and he let up when he saw that he was going down. That's a tough call. When he saw that Howell was bringing him down from behind, Baltimore let up on the hit. He didn't launch himself.
Well, they marched it to the 30-yard line. Time for Manziel. And the crosser for Ernest Jackson. It's another first down. And how about the Alouettes? They give up that 101-yard scoring drive, but they're marching right back down the field against the Red Blacks.
Well, I think in addition to an extra week of practice for Johnny Manziel, an extra week of practice for this team together as a group, you're also seeing the confidence with a very different picture on the scoreboard, facing them, and the play calling that's allowing them to go with.
First and 10, first trip to the red zone. Another quarterback keeper, Johnny Manziel, to the goal line. And a ball comes loose right before he got in. They're ruling touchdown Alouettes. Who ends up on it?
Well, what a drive for Johnny Manziel.
Ruling on the field was Montreal number 2 fumbled the football prior to crossing the line. Then Montreal recovered the football in goal for a touchdown. Touchdown Montreal.
So the ball out before he crossed the line. Who gets on the football? And you can see the Alouette at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, I found myself watching Johnny Manziel more because he took a hard shot to the head from Jonathan Rose, who stepped up in support.
Hard to see at the bottom of the pile who gets credit for the touchdown.
It looked like Christian Matt might have been getting some congratulations on the sidelines, but
Manziel getting attention after that scramble. Had one rushing touchdown with the against the Buffalo Bills. And he's getting some work done on the neck after that huge shot at the goal line. But the Alouettes get into the end zone. Manziel directs a 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. We'll get confirmation of who gets credit for the touchdown. It may be Philip Gagnon. Take one more look at the touchdown. Manziel drops it right at the goal line, but good call, Dwayne. It was the center, Christian Matt, who gets on it. The 8-year man out of Concordia has a touchdown.
Yeah, this is one that the whole O-line is enjoying.
And after a real intense session with all the medical staff on the sidelines. Manziel looks like he's okay, and they're going to concede a single on the kickoff here. And so it will be 17-11. Johnny smiling as he engineers a touchdown drive.
Back in the studio with some big news out of Saskatchewan. The Rough Riders have confirmed they have released receiver Duron Carter, who indicated this on Twitter in the last hour. Welp, just got the call. I'm out, Sask. Love y'all. Most fun I had in a long time. Duron Carter let go by the Rough Riders. Back to Chris and Dwayne.
Boy, that's a shocker. We saw the tweet and remembered last year that there was one that sounded like that didn't mean he was on his way, but this time it's for real.
Yeah, followed up by the release from the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. Still waiting to find out the circumstances are that led to that rather significant move from Regina.
Does Terrell Owens have anything to do with that story? Stay tuned.
Yes, cue the rumor mill.
So Manziel gets headlines here, but Duron Carter's story will be a major one in the days ahead. Next game for Saskatchewan, they're on a bye, will be next Sunday, again against Calgary. Alouettes go to Edmonton next week. Trying to put their second win in the standings. Here's Powell dancing outside, and William Powell up to the 52-yard line. Looks like Jesse Joseph was shaken up on the play, and he remains down.
Yeah, and that's one that has to worry you a little bit given the state of inexperience of this Montreal defensive line. Jesse Joseph, fourth-year man, would be one of the more experienced members of that group.
So Joseph continues to get attention. Not much experience right now on that defensive line.
Joseph, in pursuing the play, took a bit of a shot to the knee. You see number 91 trailing right here. You watch that right
Friendly
knee.
fire.
Yeah.
From Brandon Dozier.
Looks like he's moving okay on his way off.
Eighth rush of the game for William Powell, up to 40 yards on the ground. 2nd and 4 here. Teams trading touchdowns on their first possessions of this third quarter. Second and 4, draw, and Enoch Mwamba filled the gap and brings Powell to a quick stop.
Mwamba arriving with some authority here.
Number 2 in the league in defensive plays. In the top 5 in tackles coming in. And the 8th tackle for a loss this year. That's tops in the league. Glass seemed a little uncertain, took it on a hop and brought down by Nigel Robick with a flag down. Sundays on HBO are the best nights for comedy. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the former Stampeder, returns for an all-new season of the hit Ballers. Premieres tomorrow, 10 Eastern, only on HBO Canada.
Take a look The work of veteran special teamer, backup defensive lineman Nigel Romick.
Came into the game tied for the league lead in special team tackles with 9. Alouettes with the football, a 6-point lead. And Tyrell Sutton stacked up. Let's head to the sidelines and get a Manziel update from Matthew.
Well, Chris, you went ahead and you had the initial diagnosis there where they were looking at his neck, and then the Alouettes medical staff was talking to him, and Manziel then was engaging with them, and head coach Mike Sherman came over, and it just seemed he was fine. He got up, and even though Pipkin did start warming up, there was never any indication that Manziel was going to be out of the game. And as soon as that series was done with Ottawa, he put his helmet on and went on the field. Guys.
Again, effective on the ground in that last series, throwing off balance and can't make the connection with B.J. Cunningham, who looked like he had a step on Corey Tyndall.
Yeah, you saw the reaction of Johnny Manziel, feeling like that was a missed opportunity. Cunningham in behind coverage, but you know, remember we talked earlier about the desire to flush Manziel to the left. That's what they managed to do here, throwing to his left, just a little off the mark.
Well, a sign of how much more consistent the offense been tonight. Just the second 2-and-out for Montreal so far. 9th in the last in the league in that department with 46 2-and-outs coming in. Here's Spencer trying to get to the edge, but tripped up. That's a solid defensive play made by Stephen Adekolu.
Yeah, backup receiver.
Bishop's product.
And from your neck of the woods.
Brampton native.
Great job, because Adekolu was outflanked. He was the outside man initially in the Montreal alignment, so he's going to work hard to make sure that they don't lose contain on that one. So you'd hear about that in meetings. Great recovery with the shoestring tackle.
Beaten in all 3 phases last week soundly, but dramatically different Alouette team here tonight. Here's Ellingson taking that short toss, cut down as he falls across the 40 to the 42-yard line. And another Alouette defender is slow to get up. Looks like TJ Heath is on the limp, but going to try and continue.
Yeah, TJ Heath brought to Montreal in exchange for veteran O-lineman Ryan Bombin prior to last week's game.
Long pass in the flat to Ellingson, and Ellingson across midfield. And it's Ellingson's best offensive night since week 2.
Trevor Harris continues to stack up the yardage through the air.
Davis Sanchez said he'd have a 350 night. He's surpassed that already. But he's trying to play catch up. Trying to do it quickly here. And TJ Heath got a hand on the football, incomplete. Joe Rinkin stride for stride with Ellingson as well. That's the final play of the third quarter. It started with a 109-yard touchdown drive by Ottawa, and then answered by an Alouette touchdown drive with Manziel. Stopped at the goal line, but Christian Matt cleaning up the loose change. REDBLACKS almost 2-1 in yards produced in this game so far, but they're the team trailing through 3 quarters.
Yeah, and this is what 4 turnovers will do to you. Put you at a real disadvantage. Montreal has, for the most part, taken advantage of those turnovers, and obviously you look at how they've hurt the REDBLACKS in this football game. You know, one of the things I want to talk about at this point, though, has been the progress of Johnny Manziel. We talked about the fact that he doesn't need to suddenly become a star in week 2, but he needs to be better than he was a week ago, and I think he's certainly been that. When you talk about decision-making as the #1 thing that was questioned last week against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I think it's been good. We've seen him eat the ball, take a couple of sacks to maintain possession, live to fight another down. And that last scoring drive, 37 rushing yards for Manziel, pulling it down, running with it, turning it into a positive play instead of trying to force something downfield.
2nd and 10, traffic there, Harris brought down, ball loose, and for the 5th time tonight, they've turned it over. Enoch Mwamba is on it. Wow.
A monster performance for a young and challenged Montreal defense. I mean, we talked about what's gone on the defensive line. Watch Mwamba off the bottom right corner of your screen. Gets blocked up, but stays alive on the play, fighting his way to the football.
Looked like that ball knocked loose by Ryan Brown, who had the knockdown tip that turned out to be the pick 6. So
yeah, the assist.
He's had a huge game. Mwamba's had a big night. And with each one of those plays, there's more belief on the Alouette sideline. See what Manziel does with this one. Pressure on, and he had Bowman open and unable to make the hookup.
A.C. Leonard supplied some pressure on this one. Again, Ottawa's best pass rusher, and here he goes bull rush and gets Sean Jamieson with his feet caught underneath him. Get a little heat on the Alouette quarterback.
REDBLACKS talked about not overthinking it against Manziel, approaching him just like they did Jeremiah Masoli a couple of weeks ago. 2nd and 10. Sideline pass, Bowman comes back for it, and Bowman exposed the football, and does Ottawa get it? Boy, that's a rookie error by a veteran player, and it is REDBLACK football. Now, it is a turnover that has to survive review. Was Darius Bowman out of bounds?
Yeah, we'll take a look as he makes this catch right along the sideline. Catches it, he's down. We can still see green. His helmet's out. His helmet touched that sideline.
Jonathan Rose over there to knock it loose, and again, every turnover is reviewed by the command center. Bowman believes he was out. But even an 11-year vet at 33 years of age may have learned that he can't do that again. We'll get a verdict on whether it's a turnover or not when we come back. While we await a verdict, it appears, though, that the helmet of Darius Bowman did hit the white paint.
Yeah, makes the catch, secures
right
it, and there you see, and you can see that the helmet is at an angle such that it is touching the sideline. We talked about the possibility that maybe with the curvature of the helmet, depending on the angle he was on, that he may not have touched the sideline, but here he clearly appears to be down.
After review by the command center, Montreal number 19, who was the ball carrier, stepped out of bounds at the 44-yard line before losing possession of the football. It will be 3rd down for Montreal at the 44-yard line. 3rd down.
So out of bounds at the 44, will be 3rd and long. Well, if they placed it in the right spot, let's.
3rd down and 2 yards to go.
They've got the. Well, they've got the marking in the wrong spot. If it would be 3rd and 8 based on where they put the football. Oh, excuse me, 3rd and 2. And the punt team on. Not going to try a 51-yarder. Beatty looks for the corner. Wobbly punt goes out.
Oh, the spot here will be interesting as to where it went out. That'll be
on the 20. That's an illegal punt. So at the 23, they rule it out. That'll be an illegal punt penalty and better field position for Ottawa than they might have expected. 2018 PGA Championship comes to an end tomorrow. Final round. Our coverage tees off 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on TSN 1 and 3. The broadcast presented by Asante Wealth Management. And you know who's lurking. 4 off the pace. Brooks Koepka with the lead. But a lot of eyes on Tiger Woods tomorrow.
With the penalty, a net gain in field position of only about 11 yards there.
And here's William Powell getting it outside, and a big first down run for Powell to get this drive started. 17 yards. Powell up to 56 on the night.
Well, again, for the Ottawa REDBLACKS in this game, the problem hasn't been whether they've been able to move the ball or not. Powell demonstrates again here. But more a question of whether they're able to hold on to that rock.
At the 50, play fake, caught by Sinopoli, loose inside the 40. More yards after catch for Brad Sinopoli, taken down by Chip Cox, but it's a 27-yard pickup.
And this is another great example of how you'll see complementary routes opening things up. You'll see Deontay Spencer come out with the flat, and that's going to pull the defense in that direction, opening up a window on the inside for Brad Sinopoli to sit it down.
First and 10, 34-yard line. And inside it goes. Catch made by the fullback, Beaulieu. Acquired in a trade for a veteran fullback. You must have loved that fullback for fullback deal.
That's right, marquee trade of the offseason as far as I'm concerned.
Sets up 2nd and 3. Beaulieu on the move. Powell the ball carrier, right side. And he's going to be a yard short of the first down, 1.5 yards. Decision time here. Marking it right at the 25. He has to get beyond the 24.
And they've sent the field goal team out there.
So Lewis Ward comes on.
Not wanting to risk coming away with nothing this time.
They did that at the end of the first half. Turnover on downs. Trying to cut this deficit in half. And he's got another. And he's got a share of a rookie record with 21 consecutive for Lewis Ward, and it's 17-14 Montreal. The Canadian Football League unveiled its Diversity is Strength campaign, and with a special guest, here's Matthew Shinetti.
Well, CC, Joanne Pollock and I are just enjoying a very tight game so far, and Ms. Pollock, not so long ago, you were enjoying it from an executive position as the first woman who was a general manager of a professional sports franchise. You're wearing the Diversity is Strength t-shirt. Tell us, take us back then and what it was like to be in that position and when you were only 29 years old.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago, so it was a long, long time ago. It was a different time. It was a different time in the CFL too, because we had a lot of financial trouble. We didn't have a great TV contract like TSN, so it was really a very difficult time for the entire league.
Now, during that time, and in a piece up on CFL.ca, you talk about what you could offer in your position as a woman in an executive position. What do you feel you felt you offered the Rough Riders at that time?
Well, before I was appointed, it was always football people who ran the business, not business people. So I was probably the first person who was marketing, you know, very much about revenue generation and so forth. So I brought a business perspective at a time when we really needed it.
Now, you are a season ticket holder here, and we have been keeping an eye on you, and we know how passionate you are about your Red Blacks. How important has it been for you to stay connected to professional football in Ottawa and be a fan?
Well, Ottawa football is a deep culture in this city. All of these people you see around here, these fans were here when I was here 30 years ago. The problem in Ottawa was never the fans, so we are rejoicing. The Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group could not be doing a better job, and they treat these fans like gold, so they will keep coming back.
And I'm going to ask you to put your general manager's hat back on.
Sure.
What do you think about the state of these Red Blacks right now and this game?
Have you seen our games? We can win this. There's lots of time. 9 minutes and 58 seconds. It's a close game. No problem. No problem.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was a much different time, wasn't it? Joanne Pollock had to navigate some stormy weather in Ottawa at the time from 88 to 91, but she did it with grace and class, and that's an interesting message too, about not just about football people but business people running football teams important.
Yeah, well, and it is a balance. I mean, ultimately, the product that people see on the field is the football portion of it, but without the business side of the operation, it doesn't exist.
Each team with a person being paid tribute to. And for the Alouettes, it's Herb Trowick, the first ever black player in the Canadian Football League. Great offensive lineman, was all CFL for a number of years, 7-time All-Star. And then the players wearing the T-shirts of those two here prior to the game. Herb Trowick was playing in Montreal when Jackie Robinson was playing for the Montreal Royals. They were close in both making those steps together to change the way we view sports.
Yeah, breaking down barriers, opening doors, paving the road for so many others since.
Chris O'Leary with biographies on the CFL website on all of these people being honored. Here's Harris going deep. Tight coverage. Joe Rankin there, and he helped break it up, intended for Deontay Spencer. There's Rankin in his first game, just brought into Montreal a couple of years back, 6 games with the Argos, but a nice job here against Spencer.
Yeah, you'll see Spencer hits it full stride, little double move, but Rankin stays in position right with him, watching and reading the receiver the whole way. He doesn't need to turn to face that ball. He just can't touch or face guard on the play.
So 2nd and 10 from the Ottawa 45. Harris over 400 yards passing. 407 and counting. He's got Spencer. He's got a first down. And he's got the Red Blacks back in Alouette territory.
Well, Red Blacks in the second half have turned this a little bit into their kind of game, which is that ball possession, dominating time of possession, limiting the other team's opportunities with the football.
Powell. Enoch Mwamba slowed him down, but the arm tackle doesn't bring Powell down, and he dances for about 4 when it looked like he might be dropped for a loss.
Yeah, that might be about as exciting a 4-yard run.
And we better not shortchange him. Give him 5 for that effort.
Yeah, breaks a tackle going left, cuts it back. A couple of terrific moves to make people miss as he's going to the right. Making something out of nothing.
That'll help stoke some momentum. 2nd and 5. 6 receivers out. And quickly into the hands of R.J. Harris. Heat the tackle, but it's another Red Black first down.
On with Dominique Grimes, R.J. Harris. 2nd and 1st year players respectively for Ottawa. See them striving to try and find that balance again in their receiving corps, spreading it around to all their guys.
27th first down, handoff Powell to the 35. 5 and close to 6 more.
And just in terms of that balance, 5 different receivers for Ottawa have at least 5 catches in this football game.
Jason Lauzon-Seguin takes a knee. He'll need some attention, the right tackle. Evan Johnson will check in.
Yeah, Johnson started the first few games of the season at right tackle, while Lauzon-Seguin was on the injured list out of the gate.
He'll take a knee, will step aside, just under 6.5 to go. 3 points separating the Owls and Red Blacks. Alouettes got to figure out how to play like this at home. They have been stingy defensively on the road this season. They have a win on the road, looking for another here, but Ellingson a catch and a first down. Trevor Harris keeps stacking up the yardage here. Third 400-yard game. His PB is 485 against BC, and he might threaten that tonight.
Well, and the confidence with which the offense has played gives you a bit of an indication of why Rick Campbell felt comfortable taking that gamble at the end of the first half, is feeling like they're going to be able to move the football and get more opportunities to score.
Fake to Powell. Underneath is the ball caught. A lot of Alouettes say no, but Sinopoli comes up with it. Let's see. Ruling incomplete. Yep.
Definitely a trap.
So 2nd and 10. In field goal range, which would tie it, but thinking about more. Doesn't release. Now underneath it goes. Here's Beaulieu. And he dropped it again, but R.J. Harris helped bail him out. Already once tonight. Harris saves the day for Ottawa.
Fortunate break. Beaulieu comes in first. He's got the check release, sneaks out. When he doesn't have anybody to pick up, Harris uses the outlet. And no doubt there will be reminders about ball security given on that Ottawa sideline.
Fake to Powell. And Sinopoli driven back by Dominic Ellis. Forward progress to the 8. Out of the 7, but 2nd and goal.
Well, it's all about the finish for Ottawa here, taking advantage of this opportunity on the Montreal doorstep.
Lauzon-Seguin back in at right tackle. It is the 8-yard line, 2nd and 8. Here come the Owls quickly. Goal line, broke it up. There's Rankin again.
Yeah, a couple big plays for him.
He might get to hang around another week, although there's a cornerback that's just been released by Saskatchewan. Ball a little behind R.J. Harris. So another short field goal attempt. Lewis Ward. And he has the record now, 22 consecutive field goals. By the way, Trevor Harris, 41 completions, 3rd most in CFL history. Henry Burris may be on the clock tonight. His record is 45.
This Ottawa offense using that tempo, they keep coming at you. Plenty of opportunities, and Trevor's been on tonight.
But a bit of a win for the Alouette defense. They don't allow a touchdown. Game tied. Manziel comes out to scrimmage at his own 35.
Yeah, it's up to the Montreal offense. Their defense has been on the field a lot in the second half of this football game. And unless they can put together some first downs here offensively, they put their defense in a tough position trying to hold on in the final minutes.
This offense has stalled with 3 2-and-outs of late. E.C. Leonard chasing Manziel, and the long out reaches Ernest Jackson. Going to be a loss on the play. See what forward progress they give Jackson, who had to come back to the football. Looks like it'll be a loss of 5 on that lengthy completion.
Yeah, just guessing this ball. Must have traveled 35 yards in the air for a loss of about 4.5.
So 2nd and 15. Looking to set up the screen to Sutton. Tyrell Sutton's got it. And he'll be brought down short of the first down at the 39-yard line. Good pursuit on the play by Rico Murray. So we hit the 3-minute warning. Game tied. Ottawa going to get the football. Tyrell Sutton getting some attention at the bench after the last play. 4 straight 2-and-outs for Montreal. They had 5 first downs on their first drive of the second half, resulting in a touchdown. They have not had a first down since. And with 2.5 to go, they have to punt the football away. Deontay Spencer awaits at the Ottawa 20. He'll run up to this one on the 30. And across the 40-yard line.
So with 2 minutes, 15 seconds to go, you've got a Montreal defense that's been on the field a lot of this second half. An Ottawa offense led by Trevor Harris, 12 career game-winning drives and over 400 yards through the air today. This defense needs to come up huge for Montreal to have a chance.
454 yards on 41 completions so far. Rick Campbell mentioned yesterday, last 3 games for the Red Blacks have been decided in the final minute. Swing that out to Spencer, and he beats Rankin to the outside that time. Taekwon Glass the tackle, but Ottawa quickly back into Montreal territory.
And this is just a demonstration of the fact that Deontay Spencer is not just fast, but lightning quick as he jukes Rankin along that sideline. Watch a little juke, duck the inside shoulder to get underneath contact. Pick up that first down.
5 different receivers for Trevor Harris tonight have at least 7 catches. And Ellingson's got another grab. Got a block. Tackled by Glass. And Ellingson has his 10th catch and his first 100-yard game of the season. Or, excuse me, his second, his first since week 1.
Such a tremendous second half. Answering of the bell for Trevor Harris in Ottawa here.
2nd and 3, he's passing again. And he's going to Ellingson again. And catch number 11 is another first down for Ottawa.
Well, you kind of knew with Greg Ellingson, you know, people have sort of suggested last few games that this has been a slow start for him, for a guy who's been as productive as any receiver in the CFL over the last 3 or 4 years. But you knew it was just a matter of time before he was going to come out with a monster game.
Harris one completion away from matching his old teammate Henry Burris for the record for most completions, but they go on the ground. Powell the hole. And he's got another first down run as they're chewing up yards through the air and on the ground to William Powell.
Yeah, now it becomes also about the clock. Not just making sure you're moving the football, but also making sure you're ticking down that clock, eating it up, leaving Montreal, assuming Ottawa is able to score on this drive, whether touchdown or field goal, leave Montreal as little time as possible.
11 on that carry, 63 rushing yards in the second half for Powell. And add to that here with a couple more. Brought down by Woody Barron. Alouettes are going to have to stop the clock, you'd think. 2nd and 7, big play coming up.
Timeout, Montreal.
And the Alouettes do stop the clock. They need a stop here. Make Ottawa settle for 3 and have some time left on the clock to respond.
I mean, the Montreal defense has held tough when you consider the yardage they've given up. They've generated 5 turnovers in this football game.
This might be the best defensive effort by a team that surrendered 565 yards.
Yeah, well, it's classic Rich Stubler. Bend, give up some yardage, but don't break. Not a lot of points allowed.
Career best for Paris at 487, stays on the ground. And it's Powell the hole, and William Powell's got a first down, and that might do it.
And that's winning football. Everybody knows exactly what's coming. They put the big team in. Everybody in the building knew who was getting the football. William Powell and the Ottawa offense still able to convert.
Learned a lesson last week. Don't leave the ball in the opponent's hands in the final minute. Powell again, outside, touchdown. William Powell over 100 over the goal line. And the home side takes the lead with 15 seconds to go.
Well executed on all accounts. Moving the ball down the field, running the football when they needed to be able to run the football. Avoiding any mental errors, assignment busts, etc. And also ticking down the clock just the way you want.
7 plays, 69 yards. Powell, the centerpiece of the drive. Ward adds the convert. It's a 7-point lead with 15 seconds to go. 17 carries, 104 and a touchdown for William Powell on the night.
Yeah, what really stands out about the offensive performance for Ottawa is the balance. You talk about 5 different receivers, each with at least 7 catches, plus their running back going for 100 yards. Tremendous performance all the way around. Aside from the turnovers.
I'm going to amend that 6 catches for 5 different receivers.
All right.
And Greg Ellingson at the top of the list with 11. Well, Johnny Manziel's got time for a play or two to create some magic, but the offense for Montreal went dry in the 4th quarter. And just like Rick Campbell's team last week, the defense stayed out in the field too long.
Yeah.
And
yeah, when you've been on the field as much as as much as Montreal's D has for most of this second half, it becomes very tough to get stops, and especially tough to get stops against a physical running game. 21 minutes time of possession for Ottawa in the second half of this football game.
Well, will be T.J. Graham from his 12. Throwing it across to the near side. Ryder Stone's got it, and that is snuffed out in a hurry by Rico Murray. And so 7 seconds left. Time for one Manziel shot.
Well, we've seen him put up a couple of deep balls. This would certainly be the first chapter of the legend of Johnny Football here in Canada if he were able to come up with a miracle touchdown here.
A guy that has drawn some comparisons to Doug Flutie needs a Flutie-esque Hail Mary here. Underneath, that skip short of Bowman. One more play. Well, that first drive of the third quarter made you take notice, and you thought, boy, he has turned the corner in a hurry. Still work to be done, but they wanted progress, and they got a little of it tonight, didn't they?
Yeah, well, I think more than a little. I think they got very significant progress tonight, and you look a week ahead and hope that it continues in the same direction for Manziel and the Alouettes as a whole.
Last shot, they're going to just dump it off to Stanback. William Stanback taken down. Game is over. Hard fought. And for a long time, Trevor Harris had to play catch-up tonight. But the REDBLACKS do avoid losing back-to-back games and step up to 5-3. Time for the Nissan Titan Player of the Game, brought to you by the Nissan Titan, official vehicle of the Canadian Football League.
Well, on a night where the Ottawa offense was absolutely on fire, no big surprise that this award goes to the trigger man, Trevor Harris. 44 completions on 54 attempts, 487 yards through the air for the Ottawa quarterback, spread it around to all his receivers, 5 different targets with at least 6 catches apiece. En route to a fourth quarter comeback win. Trevor Harris is tonight's Nissan Titan Player of the Game.
Tied for second most completions in a game with Anthony Calvillo, who did it back in 2008. One short of Henry Burris, who did it back in 2015 against the Montreal Alouettes. REDBLACKS go to 5-3, and the Alouettes lose their 5th straight and are now 1-7. Final score 24-17. So long from TD Place. Coming up next, here's SportsCenter.